Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we'll begin. Adequate notice of this April the 11th, 2019 meeting has been provided in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act by providing written notice and agenda for the meeting on the bulletin board in the municipal building, 1000 Route 10, Township of Hanover, and by hand delivering, mailing, or faxing such notice and agenda to the following newspapers: Morris County's Daily Record, the Star Ledger, Hanover Eagle, and by filing same with the Township Clerk. May I have a roll call, Mr. Administrator?
Committeeman Gallagher.
Here.
Committeeman Faramasca.
Here.
Committeeman Mahalko.
Here.
Committeeman Cahill.
Here.
And Mayor Francioli.
Here.
5 members in attendance, sir.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, would you all please rise and join me in a pledge of allegiance to our flag, and remain standing, please, for prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Almighty God, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all of the people of Hanover Township. Amen.
Please be seated. Joe, you have a proclamation?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have a proclamation for the... Why does that keep beeping? Is it you, Mike? You're kicking, Michael. I know you're doing something of it. We have a proclamation that the Township Committee would like to offer. Joe, would you...
Is there a representative here on the proclamation? Yes. Okay.
Good. I'll offer it. Would someone second it?
Second.
Okay. Mr. Administrator.
Okay, this is a proclamation of the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover in the County of Morris and State of New Jersey, proclaiming April 2019 as Sarcoidosis Awareness Month in Hanover Township. Whereas the month of April marks the occasion of National Sarcoidosis Month observances in the Township of Hanover, focused on generating public awareness, understanding, and compassion for those suffering from this disease, and the need to support medical research. And whereas sarcoidosis is an inflammatory disease that can affect almost any organ of the body, and whereas sarcoidosis causes the immune system, which normally protects the body from infection and disease, to overreact, resulting in damage to the body's own tissue. And whereas the classic feature of sarcoidosis is the formation of granulomas, which are microscopic clumps of inflammatory cells that group together. If too many of these clumps form in an organ, they can interfere with how the organ functions. And whereas the cause of sarcoidosis is currently unknown, and whereas sarcoidosis can affect people of any age, race, or gender, but is most common among the adults between the ages of 20 and 40 years. And whereas sarcoidosis is a multi-system disorder, which means that symptoms typically on which organ the diseases affect, in most cases the disease will affect the lungs. And whereas the observance of Sarcoidosis Awareness Month will provide validation to those who suffer from this unknown disease. And whereas recognizing Sarcoidosis Awareness Month will provide the residents of Hanover Township with an opportunity to increase their understanding of this potentially fatal disease. And whereas Mary Merlino and the Foundation of Sarcoidosis Research work together to raise awareness every year to raise money for research. And whereas it is the intention of the Township Committee to raise awareness that sarcoidosis is a potentially debilitating and deadly multi-organ inflammatory disease estimated to affect 200,000 people in the United States. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover in the County of Morris and State of New Jersey that it hereby proclaims April 2019 as Sarcoidosis Awareness Month in our community. Be it further resolved that this proclamation is transmitted to Mary Merlino and the Foundation of Sarcoidosis Research for reference and information purposes. Signed, Ronald F. Francioli on behalf of the Township Committee.
Present this to you, okay? And at the same time, Joe.
Go around for picture. Go around for picture.
Yeah, that's all good. See that our Board of Health gets a copy of the proclamation as well.
Why didn't you go? The mayor will present it.
There you go. Proclamation, we're going to turn this around. I'm going to take the picture. Okay, let me see the resolution. Good, Jim?
I want to get one more.
Get one more,
I
Jim.
want you without.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Can I
You can
say
say a few
something?
words.
Okay.
Go right ahead.
First, I wanted to thank you, and I also wanted to thank Mr. Giorgio and all of the Township Committee members just for taking the time and acknowledging this disease. And this is something I've been advocating for a while since I was diagnosed. I'm a resident of Whippany. I've been here for 8 years. 2 of my kids probably graduated with a couple of your kids. Mine graduated, one last year, the other 2 years before then. And it's just nice to have the support of the community to make some awareness for our illness. I have a couple friends with me here who also do have sarcoidosis. And we work for awareness because we need to get the word out because it takes so long. One of the main reasons is because it takes so long to get diagnosed. It took me over 8 years to get diagnosed. In that time, my disease progressed to the point that I have a pacemaker defibrillator. And had I been diagnosed earlier, I could have had better health, better situation going on. So we fight for funds, research, awareness, and one of the things, if any of you want to drive by Emerson, you'll see my house is lit up a little purple. I got a nice purple light there because that's our color. And we also have a special thing going on April 13th on Saturday. We're having places lit up. There's a campaign called Illuminate the Night. So there's different locations all over the country that are going to be lit up in purple. The World Trade Center is going to be our biggest one that's going to be lit up. So I suggest that anybody wear purple on April 13th in support of us. And does anybody have any questions?
There's so little knowledge of the disease.
Yes.
I suppose it's another autoimmune disease.
Yes.
Basically.
At this point, there's very little known. There's
Yeah.
no known cause. They don't know if it's genetic, environmental. There's no reliable treatments.
Is there
at this point.
symptoms associated with it?
You know, most of the people, as it says in the proclamation, are affected through their pulmonary symptoms, but it can affect any system. For me, it's pulmonary, cardiac, it's in my eyes, my lymph nodes, my spleen, and it's usually diagnosed by exclusion. A lot of times it's misdiagnosed. I know many people that were told that they had lung cancer, and then they get treated for lung cancer, and then that whole treatment damages their body even more, and then they say, oh, no, actually you have sarcoidosis. So it's really important that we get some research so that it can be properly treated, diagnosed, and hopefully someday have a cure for it.
Well, I thank you for that, and we are pleased that we were able to offer you a proclamation on it. We'll do our best to get the word out.
I appreciate it so much. The state of New Jersey has given us a proclamation in 2016, was it? Yep. And, okay, resolution. So, you know, this is a step. We want to just get the word out as much as we can, have people not say, sarcoidosis, what is that? So that people will know. I do have a little bit of information I just wanted to share. Pass out if anybody's interested about sarcoidosis.
We have.
We got it.
Oh, you got this?
Oh, yes, we did.
Yes, we did.
Your assistant.
Great. And if you'd like any additional information, please feel free to reach out and get in touch with me if you hear of anybody who has sarcoidosis. We do have organizations and support groups and things like that.
Well, thank you very much for that. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I really
Good luck.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bless you.
Okay, gentlemen, at this time, I'd like to open the meeting to the public for any items not
So
on the
moved.
agenda. Motion
Second.
open. All right, moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open. If you'd like to address the Township Committee at this time, please do so from the podium, giving us your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Fern Walken from Cedar Knolls and Margaret Harrison, also from Cedar Knolls. I'd like to say hello to Mayor Francioli and the rest of the committee members, and thank you in advance for taking the time to listen to me on this very important issue. I'm a resident of Hanover Township for 32 years, and I'm co-leader of Morris County Moms Demand Action, a nonpartisan group that seeks common sense solutions to gun violence in all communities. Margaret has lived in Hanover Township for 42 years and is also a volunteer with Morris County Moms Demand Action. In 2018, Mayor Francioli and the Hanover Township Committee considered a proclamation request for Gun Violence Awareness Day, and I very much appreciated that you took that into consideration. However, what the committee proclaimed was a condemnation of, quote, all forms of violence against human beings, unquote, removing the issue of gun violence from the proclamation. Gun violence is an epidemic. Gun violence kills more than 36,000 people every year in this country, more than 100 a day, up since last year when I came here from 96 people a day. Another 80,000 people are injured by firearms annually. A study in the journal Pediatrics found that nearly 1,300 American children die every year from gun-related injuries. 2/3 of gun deaths are by suicide, gun suicide. Americans are more than 25 times more likely to be killed with guns than any other high-income country. It is not an OSHA problem, as you stated in your previous proclamation. It is a uniquely American problem that needs to be addressed. I'm sure you would agree with that. By removing the word gun from your proclamation, you avoided your responsibility as a governing body to recognize this serious problem in our society. And by removing the story of Hadia Pendleton, you negated the very person whose story is representative of stories of thousands of people in this country. So with all that being said, I respectfully request again that the Hanover Township Committee consider proclaiming June 7th to be Gun Violence Awareness Day in Hanover Township. Following, you will find more. There will be more information about our ask. I will give you the form proclamation. The history of Gun Violence Awareness Day is that the color orange has long been a proud history of the gun safety movement, and orange is the color that Hadia Pendleton's friends wore in her honor after she was shot and killed in Chicago at the age of 15, just 1 week after performing at President Obama's second inaugural parade. Whether it's worn by hunters in the woods of Pennsylvania, activists in New York City, or Hadia's loved ones in Chicago, orange honors the 100 lives cut short and the hundreds more wounded by gun violence every day. And that demands action. Since the first National Gun Violence Awareness Day in 2015, hundreds of communities and organizations continue to commemorate the event by wearing orange. Many famous buildings and bridges are lit up in orange throughout the nation. So Wear Orange is calling for an end to gun violence. And I will give you the link that you can click on so that you can learn more about it. The second ask that we have tonight is for Mayor Francioli, and we're asking you to join Mayors Against Illegal Guns. Mayors get the late night calls when a police officer is shot or a child is killed, and they know the toll that violence takes on our communities. In 2006, former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and former Boston Mayor Thomas Menino founded Mayors Against Illegal Guns as a coalition of 15 mayors. They now have 1,000 mayors across the United States that have joined. Together, they lead in promoting and advocating for common sense gun laws that reduce gun violence and save lives. And I will also give you the link so that you can see that. I want you to know that Moms Demand Action is a gun violence prevention group that supports the Second Amendment, but believes that with common sense gun legislation can keep guns out of the hands of dangerous people. We know that with owning guns is not a problem for us, but with the ownership of guns comes responsibility. And so that is what our organization is about. It would be great if you could proclaim at your May 9th meeting this proclamation, and we would be happy to accept it there. And I thank you very much for your time. I will give this to you, the hard copy, and I will also email it to you. I think I have Mr. Giorgio's email. So I'll give this to you. Thank you. I appreciate you're all listening.
Thank you, Fern. I'm sure the Township Committee will once again give serious consideration to your remarks and to the submittal that you have.
Thank you very much.
And they'll respond accordingly. Thank you. Appreciate it. The floor remains open. John, how are you?
All right, Ron, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah, my name is John Scagliosi. I've been a township resident for 59 years. And I'm here today to talk about the park, the Brickyards. And I wrote something down. I'd like to read it. I met with the Hanover Township Engineering, who was nice enough to show me where the proposed location of the park would be. I do not feel the location is that great. The town would have to cut down trees and fill in to level the location. It is very close to an active parking lot, which allows cars to drop off children at the pool all day, and the traffic would be no good for children to run around out in front of the pool. I also think a lot of the people from our town and other towns come to our park, and they do not belong to the pool. How can their children enjoy the time at the park when they are watching so many other children walking into the pool area and also being able to use the basketball court that they are not allowed to be used as they are not members? The gazebo is there for people the gazebo is there for people to use, and they are all bricks, and there are bricks there from people who donated using their names or their family members' names on them. The water fountain is there for the children to use. The playground has been in this town for 60 years and has been updated along the way as we did in 2001. To me, the park is a landmark in this town, and memories of updating it along the way by residents who have lived here for many years. There are still people who pride themselves in the fact that they worked to upgrade the park and to help maintain it over the years. Newly residents have also come to enjoy the park and its location. The location was picked for a reason, and that's why I was here tonight, to voice my opinion on the park, because I'm a strong believer in that park because I helped build it and I helped orchestrate, raising the money.
John, specifically, you're addressing the B Meadow Park area or all parks?
The B Meadow, the Brickyard Park.
Brickyard Park.
Up at the pool. I do not want the location to be changed of the park.
And is the concern the pathway around the park now? Is that? I'm just trying to get to the agenda.
He's talking specifically about the playground.
The playground.
I'm talking about the playground. The proposal, the new proposal is to build. We have to build a new playground because the playground is old, and I know that, and it has to be rebuilt. But the proposal was they wanted to move it over to put it on the front lawn of the pool, which I'm against. And I want the playground to be put exactly back to where the playground is now, because that was the location of the playground. It's been there for years. It was picked because of, it's away. It's quiet over there. The gazebo is there. The bricks are there. Everything's there that the town put there. The town people did and everything. And I would just like it to be put back to where it was, because I know it's approved. The money's there in the budget for it already. I've seen pictures of the new playground. I met with the engineer, I think it was Wednesday or Thursday up there, and he showed me where they wanted to put it. But like I said, you would have to cut down trees, bring in fill, and putting a playground on a front lawn of a pool, to me, the parking lot is right, like I just read,
Okay.
and that's why I'm here. I'm here to ask if the playground could be put in the same spot as where it is. That's all I want.
Mayor, can I respond?
Councilman Mahalko, please, Recreation Department.
First of all, John, thank you very much. You've done an enormous amount of work over there. The crew that you were with, the fundraising you guys did for the original playground, you guys did a heck of a job. We all know, unfortunately, time goes on, the playgrounds become defunct. And as of now, the older section has to be closed.
Right.
The younger section is still open for the time being. That seems to be holding up a little bit better.
Right.
The discussion came up about replacing it, and they've been band-aiding it, and you've helped.
Right.
So it is going to be replaced. Like you said, the money has been allocated, or it will be with the approval of this budget. The placement of the playground, it was suggested at the Rec Commission to move it next to, in front of, so bear with me, if you're standing in the parking lot looking at the Bee Meadow pool, to the left of the pool, there's an area there where John's speaking of. They felt it was a good spot to put it, and it solves a few concerns that we have. This day and age, there's so many cars, things, everybody's driving fast, the parking lot is very busy. To get to the playground where it's existing now, any of the children that are either at the pool or at the football field need to cross through that parking lot. And they do. They cross through. It's, again, it's very busy. We don't need to beat that up. By moving it closer to the pool, it solves a few of the issues. One is if you're at the playground or if you're at the field, you can walk. You can stay on grass. You can walk through pathways up to that playground. You do not have to go in the parking lot. If you're in the pool or you're attending the pool, you can come out the front of the pool, walk to the right, and you're in the playground. A lot of kids during pool time, during the summer months, it's adult swim, the kids jump out of the pool, and what do? They go tearing across the parking lot out to the playground. So it's been the consensus of the Rec Commission, and we took a vote on it last night, and we do endorse moving it closer to the building. Yes, trees do have to come down, although there was already talk of taking a couple of those trees down to begin with. They're old and the branches are dropping. There's also security issues with the park itself, the playground itself. Being next to the building, we'll be able to have, eventually we're working on a surveillance system for our town in general. We'll be able to put a surveillance camera and monitor those parks much better. There's no monitoring at all out in the front. We met with the mothers group. They came, they expressed their issues, we addressed them, we talked about them. One of them at one point, again, we talked about a fence around. Currently there's a fence around.
There is a fence around the park right now.
Currently there's a fence around the park, and at one point DPW had suggested not putting a fence back up. Because what happened was, the kids were at the field, they'd run over, they didn't want to run around the other side to go through the gate, so they'd climb over the fence. So the fence kept breaking. DPW had to keep repairing it. DPW suggested no fence. We talked to the mothers, and the mother said, we really want a fence. So we put that back in. It's a good idea to put that fence back in. It helps keep everything corralled in. We think it's a safe spot, it's a good spot. It does need some leveling, it's true, but that's typical wherever you're going to put it.
Okay, but don't you think that I was up there and I seen where it's going, and don't you think where it is, it's even closer to the parking lot?
Slightly. I didn't get a tape measure out.
Well, I did.
It's going to be I didn't measure it exactly, but probably from the
But
edge
people
of the...
do drop off kids there in the front all the time. There's more traffic in front of the pool than there is where the park is now, where it goes out to the
every single
one-way.
car has to come in and go out
the
right
one
by
way.
that existing playground.
It's just like you're saying to me, I ain't taking my kid to Walmart through the parking lot because there's cars there, letting my kid run. I don't think anybody lets their kids that age who play in that
do.
playground to go out there
You've been there, you've seen them.
You know what I mean? They won't run across the parking lot.
Yeah, unfortunately, the kids do, and it's not even the youngest kids,
do
even
that
older.
all the time.
The early teens, they'll run across the parking. They get here just as easily as somebody else.
Then what are we going to do with? Are you going to move the gazebo and put all the bricks back? And
Actually, I
everything?
wanted to ask you.
Excuse
What do you
me?
think? We have a couple good spots over there. We have some suggestions on where to put the gazebo. I'd like to get your input on it. I'd like to see what you think.
I looked at like I said, looked at it with the engineer, and I don't see where there's a spot in that area there.
Got a couple good ideas.
You know where to
And
put
again,
the
I'd like to
gazebo
meet
in
with
the
you over
bricks, in the bricks and everything.
Well, the bricks, if you looked at the bricks, we need to do something, and Denise Brennan, superintendent of rec, had suggested, the bricks have faded. It was like a painted on.
No, well, it's
they're not
engraved
etched.
in, and it's engraved. Their name, people's names are engraved. People who passed away.
Most of them, unfortunately, you can't read. So she had suggested maybe even coming up with a plaque and taking those names and putting them on a plaque. Again, we're open to suggestions for that, and if it needs moving the bricks, then we can move the bricks. The problem with the bricks is you can't read them. So we're open to suggestions on what to do with those items. I know there's a stone there that has a plaque on it. We could certainly move that over also. We're not trying to disrespect the dedication that you or the people that you had dedicated it to, but we feel it's a safer, better spot closer to the building.
Okay, would this playground be built this year? Because the kids don't have.
Trying to.
Excuse me.
Yes.
And what's the time frame you think this playground's going to be?
Jerry, maybe. Well, we're in the early stages.
Yeah, I think.
Although it's the company that's providing it is in the co-op,
Ben
so it
Schaefer.
saves time. Ben
Schaefer did the first one for us.
Yeah, so it saves time. So we don't have to go out to bid. We spoke with them. I met with them the day before you did.
Right.
He can get it ordered up. Don't quote me, but I'd say maybe 3 months.
Okay. And another thing that means a lot to me is that sign up there, community playground at the Brickyards.
Mhm.
Would that be moved over there?
Sure, we can certainly talk about that.
Okay.
I don't see any reason why not.
It was a big concern to me because it meant a lot to me and the town residents
Yeah.
to put that park over there and to move it, maybe to build something else in the future, upset me at first,
Mm-hmm.
but I want a playground for the kids. I'm all about kids.
Yeah.
I've done a lot for kids in this town, but
And we appreciate all that you have been doing, and I hope
just
you continue.
I needed to go up there and look at it to understand where they want to put it because
Right.
paper didn't show me nothing. I needed to walk up there and actually see
Mm-hmm.
where they want to put it in front of the pool.
Right.
So, if the kids get a playground, I'm all for it. It sounds to me like it's set that the playground's going to go in front of the pool.
It's kind of where we're
So-
leaning. Like I said, we had and the rec commission unanimously.
Okay.
So it's not just me.
Oh,
and it wasn't even
I'm
my
not saying
suggestion.
it's just you.
But I liked the idea. I thought it was a good idea. I grew up in town also. I
Yeah,
biked.
I
I biked
know.
from Anna Terrace all the way over. But that's back in the day when it wasn't as busy. It wasn't as crowded. It wasn't as many cars.
Is the
and now-
playground going to be about the same size as a playground that we existed? That we
Yeah, a little bit smaller, but pretty close.
handicap access and all that.
Mhm.
Okay.
So you want to,
Mike.
Oh yeah.
you
I'm
want to
sorry.
show
Krista,
we have a diagram, John.
We do. We have a, now there's going to be the fence isn't on there, there's going to be some benches, those aren't on there, but this is a pretty good idea of what we're looking at. And maybe I can put them in the back if anybody wants to take a peek.
You want to go over, Michael, and talk to it?
Yeah. So what we're looking at, let's just start parts. Yeah, now, this is not where the pool's going to be, it's kind of opposite. The pool's really going to be on this side of the playground. So We're still going to have two sections, an older section and a younger section. I believe this is 2 to 5-year-old, and then this was 5 up to 12. The mothers group had again asked for it to be fenced in, and we're going to agree to that. I wanted something better than a chain link fence, so we're looking maybe some kind of nice white vinyl, something along those lines, something that DPW recommends, better than a chain link. There's still some debate, and again, I went back to the mothers group and other people and said, you know, some were for putting a fence in between, some were against that, putting a fence in.
Back then, when we did it, we had to put a fence in between to break up the 3 to 5, and then the 5.
But there's also a grade change.
Right, we had to do grade change. Back then, there was different, well, now there's different changes. You don't maybe not have to do that now.
Yeah. Also, what they found too is when you guys did a terrific job, that the matting, they recommend highly against that now. A, it's very expensive, and B, it doesn't last. You know, you were on DPW.
It costs $18,000 to put that matting.
Yeah, and now it's more, but you have to continually replace the mat. So we're going to go back to a wood fiber, you know, for lack of a better word, mulch. They found that to be the most safe and cost effective.
Well, the reason why we put the mats on the one side for the younger kids, they didn't want tire things back then.
Yeah, definitely.
They wanted softer in case the kids fell, so that was a recommendation back then.
Back then, and they found
it changed.
They don't use any tire. And somebody had mentioned on Facebook, no tire will be used. Okay. But again, they're coming back to the good old-fashioned.
Well, like we have on the other side is playground balls down there.
Yeah, which it was in the past. Here's kind of a close-up of the larger child area. Again, we're kind of getting back to the jungle gym kind of thing. They're finding these are the best. We went to experts. Dan Schaefer, what are your recommendations? These are some. The mothers group had asked for a couple of items still working on those.
All right. Thank you for your
I hope to still continue to have your help and support.
I mean, if you guys need help building, I'm sure the town would build it again, you know, like we did at one time. But
And again, input with the gazebo and the rocks and that type of stuff.
yeah, because I really don't like, you know, the gazebo was donated after Ed Thompson's husband died.
Oh,
You know, so that was donated by the family of him.
Mm.
And, you know, the bricks were donated by people who passed away, and when he passed away, and stuff like that. We put that little brick walk by in. But it is failing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It has to be updated. I know this stuff has to be updated.
So maybe, like I said, we can, instead of, maybe get a plaque, put the names on a plaque,
Right.
and honor them that way.
Yeah, as long as we honor the people who did it, you know,
Absolutely.
keep the gazebo, you know, and things that people donated.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I have no problem with it. All right, thank you for your time.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Thanks, John.
Very good. There are benches that have been donated as well as the books. So I think the Recreation Commission is very sensitive to all the donations that have been made in that park, and I'm sure, John, that they're going to do their best to make sure it's transferred into the new park as well. So,
Yeah, okay, thank you.
yeah. By the way, Michael, why don't you give the meeting dates for Recreation Commission once again, in case people want to attend those meetings, you know.
Well, the next meeting,
These
again,
I have the date.
yeah, it's
You have the dates?
It's the third Tuesday of the month.
Yeah.
Although this month we had it just passed on Tuesday because
This
of-
past Tuesday with the PAC.
we adjusted it, but it's the third Tuesday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can look, we do post the agenda. Someone had suggested that, and it's a good idea. We do post the agenda for the rec, so you can take a look and see what's going to be on there.
The next rec meeting is May 21st,
Yeah.
you know, on a Tuesday night. You know.
Yeah, this way you can listen to, hear, and comment. They have an open portion of their meeting, too, where your
Yeah.
comments and remarks can be...
And we'd like to hear suggestions.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
All right, thank you.
But be careful, they'll probably put you to work.
No problem.
Yeah.
John's
Thanks
not
for your
afraid to
time.
work.
I appreciate it.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Very good. The floor remains open if anyone else would like to address the Township Committee at this time. Seeing none, hearing none?
Can I make a comment? No.
You have one. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Good. Oh, Len, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
We're very well.
Good.
Good to see you back from Florida.
Yeah. I read on Facebook, and I want to find out the facts, that the town is also considering a turf field on the passive park, what we bought from San Marco. Is that true? And
Can I take that one also?
Back to Committeeman Mahalko. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm glad you asked, and honestly, I was just about to comment. Facebook threw out a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it did.
And I'm glad you came to ask to get, the correct information. So let me start by saying, let's start from the beginning. There's no conspiracy. There's no hidden agenda. We do need another field. That's a fact. And specifically, we need a turf field. We need additional field. There's been some debate as to whether to turf the existing, which personally I don't agree with, because we do need another one. We're at capacity. We're turning away. I coach a soccer team. I coach my youngest daughter. We have the high school was nice enough to allow us to practice on their field Sunday evenings at 5 o'clock with 4 teams. We were all fighting for that turf field. So we need another field. There's, it's to that point where we certainly need one. Yes, we are looking at several options. One of them is in that upper area, but we're all over the map with where we're looking to put the field. I asked Isaac from engineering to come up with some, thinking out of the box, and he came up with some really good ideas. So there's been a lot of discussion and talk of how and where and what. There's nothing set in stone. One idea was in that upper field. A part of it did go onto the Samarco property. It is passive property. And we're looking into, there's ways to keep it off of that property also. One of the other things that was on Facebook was a $4 million bond. And I think I can speak for the rest of us, would never agree to, endorse, suggest, promote a $4 million bond to do this. Anybody want to argue with me over that?
There's no argument. I think confusion comes through with what the guesstimated cost for the
So we have numbers. I don't mean to cut you off, but let me keep going. We did get some preliminary numbers to put a field up in that area. And again, preliminary. We need to know what we're talking about. A field with lights up there. Our engineering department came up with a number of 2.1 million. Sounds like a big number. It is a big number. It's a big project. Almost regardless of where we put it, that's basically the number that we're looking at. So now we've got a goal. We've at least got a line to work to. Currently, with the approval of this budget, we're going to have $625,000 set away for the turf field. That includes $300,000 for 2019 to go towards it. If we continue at the rate of our savings, at $300 a year, by the time we get to 2022, which is 3 years down the road, that'll get us to 1.5. How do we get to 2.1? Again, one of the options that was spoken about was potentially a short-term note to make up the 600 difference. That's maybe where somebody started talking bond. I don't know. They should be careful because people have been at these meetings. They know what's being discussed. But that was one option. There are other options. There's delaying the project, which a lot of the Rec Commission doesn't want to delay. Just like you, when you put on an addition or you want to buy a house, you borrow money to get that shortfall, to make up the difference. I don't know of very many people that haven't bought a house without a mortgage or put on an addition without taking out a loan, or even buying a car these days without a loan. So sometimes that happens. I don't recommend it, but that's again, that's where the short-term note came into discussion. So you're really talking, again, about $600,000 if we did that plan. Another plan would be to accelerate our funding, see if we can get some more money, maybe cut back on the rec budget, add a little bit more to it, and get to that number even quicker. So those are some of the things that are being talked about. We are really focusing on a multi-purpose field large enough to accommodate virtually all the sports. That kind of sets us, we know the mistakes that we made in the past when we did the Brickyard field. And again, it was the original intent was to make it a practice field. When they said, well, you didn't make it big enough for a game field. And then they went a little bit bigger and corrected it. So we're hoping not to make that mistake again. And again, we're pushing for a full-size soccer field, which seems to be the biggest. You can fit soccer, lacrosse, football is smaller, so that'll fit in there also. And you can play many of these sports on that field. We are looking for potentially lighting it. Again, to extend the time that we can utilize the field. I don't need, we've all talked about our housing obligation. We're going to have more people in town, and we're already at max. So now's the time that we need to start planning and working towards that. So that brings us back to, if we were to turf the existing field, A, it's a beautiful field. DPW does a fantastic job. It's better than a golf course, okay? It would be a shame to tear that up. But B, it doesn't solve our issue of another field. We're still going to be down a field. We're still not going to have enough field. C, it's not big enough to accommodate a full-size soccer or a full-size lacrosse. Yes, smaller kids can certainly play on it. It can. But again, we're pushing for that extra field. Excuse me. So, timing-wise, we all want it as soon as we can. Place, we haven't decided on. We're still, and we're open to suggestions. The idea, everybody keeps coming back to, well, Hanover doesn't have a complex. We don't have a recreation complex. And kind of what we're focusing on is that brickyard pool area and making it a complex. So that's why we're trying to work out to fit it in there. And then again, it comes down to money. And I think, again, we're wrapping our heads around figuring out how we're to make that happen the correct way. Again, the bond, whoever put out there that's a $4 million bond, shame on them. They know better. So, did I answer any questions? Do you have any more questions?
No, I'm glad you answered that. I don't want to say how many years I've been in town, but I used to play in the brickyards. We used to swim in the brickyards before there was a municipal pool.
See, now you're dating yourself.
We went under all those tunnels. We played in the
Be careful then.
It was it's a lot of fun, and I was on the committee when we acquired the property. There was, I believe, there was a cul-de-sac with 5 houses that was going to go in there, and we decided we were going to buy it. We did it for a passive recreational park. Yeah. If you went to make it an active part, it would require Green Acres hearing, and it would really stir up, I think, a lot of the neighbors. I will tell you, and probably Ron's the only one that's going to remember this, but 25 years ago, Old Troy Park, the county of Morris, wanted to put in ball fields on Reynolds Avenue. They wanted to tear down that forest and put in ball fields, and the residents on B Meadow and Reynolds signed a petitioned the town committee. The town committee came out against it. The Township of Parsippany came out against it, and they never built the ball field. The only ball field they have is the one that they always had. Right. So, I mean, I don't want to get to that point where, we have a public hearing and stirring up a lot of people that don't want, lights and turf fields in the neighborhood there. So I just want to remind you that the town came out against ball fields on Reynolds Avenue, and I just think it's not an appropriate place. But I will add that I walked it just the other day, and you can hardly get in there. I think it would be nice if you had like a trailhead where people can walk in. I think people would enjoy it. A lot of us enjoy trees and birds and.
Well, you've seen that the path system. We're working on phase 1. That should be done by the fall. Phase 2, we got grants. We got grants for both phases. Phase 2 is in the design phase right now, and we just asked Jerry to start on getting us ready for phase 3, and that's going to go around the back sides of the ponds, around the pool.
Well, I know that trail, but I'm just saying getting into the San Marco property.
Right.
It's all wild rose all along that exit road, and you really have to come in close to the playground. I mean, it's not inviting to people, and you could make it inviting as a passive park, which is what we all agreed to when we acquired it, that it would be a passive park. And I mean, on the other side of Reynolds, Hanover Township owns, you could even have a trail that goes through that property all the way to Patriots Path in Troy Meadows.
Sure.
So there's other possibilities for that park
Pretty
besides
much is.
converting it to an active recreational park. And that's what I was concerned about. I'm glad that you clarified a lot. I'm glad it's just in the discussion stage. I looked on the agenda. Listen to Facebook. I thought it would be
Please don't
something
listen
here.
to Facebook. And you know us, you can reach out to us if you have any questions or concerns. We want to hear them. We want the input.
Well, my concern is I think it's a nice passive park, maybe, and I know it's underutilized. If you'd clear a little where people can get in, or maybe even have a sign that that it's not private property from the playground area that exists now.
The Samarco area you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right. It's not very conducive for walking right now. Our focus right now is, again, the paths going the other way.
I know it is, but...
So, but that's an interesting idea, and we'll take a look at it.
I'm just saying that's a nice passive park, and
right.
If there was a park bench there or a way in...
There's a park bench by the playground.
There is?
We'll leave one. We'll leave one for you.
Okay. Anyway, thank you for answering those questions, and I'm glad it's just in the contemplation
it's in the discussion
stage.
Phase. Yeah, we're trying to figure out.
Thank you.
Len, if you'd like, I'm sure Engineering Department can give you a copy of the connectivity plan that we have for trails throughout the town. The trail that's going in right now around the Bee Meadow Pond area received a significant grant from the County Open Space Preservation Trust Fund, and we're very appreciative of that. And I might blow a horn a little bit, because Hanover Township, some year or two ago, if I remember that, a year or two ago, initiated the public question as to whether or not open space preservation could use their funds toward trails, and the public question passed. So Hanover spearheaded that too. We want to see more trails. We want to see more active trails like this. A continuation of Patriots Path goes back to Al Kent. You and I know that.
Yes, right.
All right, so you're going to see more of that in the recreational area, along with what Committeeman Mahalko was just talking about with the expansion of Bee Meadow for more recreational uses. And there's no question about the other comment that he made, that given the impacts that Hanover is going to have to address in the not too distant future regarding our obligations to fair share housing, we are going to see some adjustments in population, and it's going to be some children involved, no question. So we're trying to look further out there, if you will. That's what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and we have to consider, active sports is one thing, but a lot of residents just like a quiet place in a park.
Well, that's true. There's no question about that either.
And I was very pleased to learn about the old, what is it, Route
24.
24, yeah.
That's the top of our list, Len.
Yeah, because we've been after that for years.
That trumps everything right now. We need to get that.
And that's...
And Mr. Giorgio is working on that diligently.
Yeah, that's wonderful, because that should be a
acres.
passive recreational trail as well.
100%.
That's a last major piece of land. That's 60-plus acres back there, and we've been working with that, and the administrator's been working with Senator Cody as well to get that decommissioned from the state. So we're in the final stages of that right now. We're doing our diligence on the environmental. Looks like we're just about done. So we will acquire that for open space. Yeah. Thanks, Lynn.
Very happy for that, because we've been after that for 20 years.
Absolutely.
So it's finally going to happen. Thank you.
Thanks, Lynn. Floor remains open.
Hello. Eric Rebels, 831 Route 10 East, Whippany, New Jersey. Anything else I have to say?
Yeah, that's
okay. Just a couple of questions. One is, for this whole recreational side, is there an ordinance against vaping and smoking?
It'll be regulated with the same regulations that we have for our parks.
Okay, because remember, vaping and smoking.
No smoking currently.
Yeah.
Okay, but vaping.
Vaping?
Yes.
Oh, I know what yeah.
Okay, because listen, vaping is going to turn into, when the recreational marijuana laws get passed, into people vaping vapors of marijuana in this park, because it won't be covered by any ordinance.
Good point.
We're reluctant to answer that until we hear from the state regarding the use of marijuana.
Okay.
So, any ordinances that we have on the books right now, we do have some.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's just a thought that vaping exists now.
Yeah.
Okay, and the smoking is prohibited but the word smoking, that this isn't smoking, this is a totally different animal. So vaping would then miss the mark of they're not smoking marijuana, they're vaping it. And when it becomes recreational, it's still legal to do. So you have to take that extra step to look at, is vaping banned? So then vaping, the banning of vaping would then banning of smoking, marijuana when it becomes legal is still banned to smoke, but
Yeah.
marijuana would be legal to vape.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
The administrator is going to see if he can get a copy of the code. My personal opinion is that any vapors that come out of your lungs in the way of smoke, vapor, etc., is smoking. That's personal opinion. My counsel may not agree with me on that, but, you know, and we have...
Whether it's posted in the ordinance is what it's important. I agree with
As
that
well.
100%. I have been, following the proposed legislation pretty closely, and I'm almost positive that the use of marijuana in public will still be illegal, even though marijuana will be legalized. So law enforcement will still have a leg to stand on in that situation. But you're right. First point, there shouldn't be anybody walking around blowing anything out of their lungs in parks in front of children to begin with. I agree with that 100%.
Exactly. And those devices themselves in their pocket in the pool, would contaminate the pool because it's an oil and it will float on the oil, on the water, and then that's going to be another issue of maintenance.
Eric, I'll tell you one thing about the vaping. We spent quite a bit of time on it with our drug coalition. We learn a lot, but as much as we learn, we're still chasing it. But at least with the marijuana, if it does become legal, and we're trying everything we can do here to protect Hanover the best we can, is you're still going to have to be 21. There's still a lot of rules and laws in place. Fortunately, when we're talking about our swing set and we're talking about Tigers football and children young enough to go to the pool, smoking marijuana down there for them is going to be illegal. Having paraphernalia is going to be illegal. But the laws are crazy because we even put forth an ordinance that was very strict, but then the governor said any ordinance will be null and void until we pass our law. So we're keeping an eye on it, and we're going to have to pivot and try to do the best we can to protect our kids. But I will tell you, in response, everybody makes such a big deal about how bad cigarette smoking is. I took my daughter and all her friends to Randall's Island last year for Governor's Ball, and yeah, sure, in New York nobody's smoking cigarettes, but everybody there was smoking pot. It was unbelievable. You couldn't even breathe. But that's New York. It's Randall's Island. And it's ironic that they think cigarette smoking is so bad, but yet everybody at that concert was smoking pot. So we're looking at this with our attorney. Of course, the chief is keeping us updated on everything we can. We have a lot of great people working in our drug coalition. Not only are we concerned, but we're scared. And we also want to do the best we could to protect our families. We don't want to certainly tell people what they can and can't do if it's legal 21 and up and the state overrides our laws. But what you're saying is something that we've discussed and we're very worried about and concerned about. But even with their paraphernalia, I know that they can't purchase it at 21, but now I'm finding out that they can have it, but they can't purchase it. So it's so blurry because it's brand new. It's just like technology.
Exactly.
We have to keep an eye on it and try to pivot and chase it. So we're very, very concerned about what you just brought up, and we've been talking about similar instances.
Okay, but the vaping is, that's the marijuana, which is in the future, but vaping now, you know what I'm saying, in a recreational area may not be the thing you want anyway. No. So banning the vaping as well as you do the smoking could eliminate a lot of things in the future, another step that you might have to take.
It's a very good idea.
And it's not regulated by the governor or his laws because it's not particularly saying marijuana vapors, it's saying vaping. Right. So that's what I wanted to address on that because I walked up here and looking at that and just, that was a concern of mine. The next thing is
before we leave that subject,
okay.
We do have regulations on the book where drugs and drug paraphernalia are prohibited from all parks and recreational facilities.
Yeah, specifically under Article 2, yeah.
In addition to smoking.
Drug-free public parks and public building zones is adopted on 10/22/1998. It forbids drug-free public parks and public buildings, area maps. It does establish prohibitions and it does establish distances from the parks, etc. public buildings, etc., within 500 feet of said properties, etc. So to the degree that we've got it on the books, it would probably have to be, like any other ordinance, as things change and the state changes, we have to have it revised and updated, and we'll probably take a look at that from the vaping standpoint.
Because I know they don't consider the delivery vehicle drug paraphernalia because you can use it without using drugs. So I know that that's a little section of the law that's interesting. So yeah, guys, we should absolutely look at this.
Yeah, no, we will have to. But, you know, you bring up a lot of different scenarios. So somebody coming into the pool area with weed, with marijuana, and even going into the pool. I mean, I know we're taking it to an extreme, but the mere fact that you entered that area with that substance on you doesn't make it legit because the governor says it's legit. And that's the prohibition that we're going to be looking at, keeping it out of the parks and open space areas, I would suppose. Council?
But
Yeah?
I would just add to what you said, Mayor, which is because the legislation is pending, it's probably too early to really comment on it. But as Committeeman Cahill said, my understanding also is that it wouldn't be allowed to be consumed in public, and at the same time, that is no reason necessarily for the township to not take action somehow. But again, as it's pending, it probably is too early to comment on it.
The governor made it very, very clear about a week or so ago in his decision that any ordinances that the town has in place ahead of any action that the state takes on this substance will be struck down. So we will be visiting those ordinances like every other town will be after we understand where the governor wants to go. I think that's it.
And you know, just bigger picture, a lot of people will say that we're too conservative and we're not very cool and let people do whatever they want. But we're looking bigger picture too into public safety. Because I heard a term the other day that was really interesting, drugged driving. Like people get hurt, killed. Driving a motor vehicle under any influence is just very, very dangerous. Operating a motor vehicle in New Jersey is almost dangerous now. So we're trying to look at everything in our roles. And you know what? They say other towns, well, Morristown will do it, Parsippany will do it. And then you know what we immediately think? Well, then they're riding between Morristown and Parsippany and they're blowing through Whippany Road 65 miles an hour. So we can't fix everything, but we could just do the best to make our families as safe as they could, as safe as they can be. But it's concerning and it's troubling. And we have enough problems with people driving under the influence of alcohol. So a lot of us aren't sure what to do, and I know our law enforcement agencies are very concerned, just from a public safety standpoint.
You know we're ahead of ourselves. I'm going to read you something under the same article, Article 2, the prohibition. Under smoking, it says the burning of inhaling from exhaling the smoke from the possession of a lighted cigar, cigarette, pipe, any other matter of substance which contains tobacco or any other matter that can be smoked or inhaled or exhaled of smoke or vapor from an electronic or smoking device prohibited.
What year was that?
We did it in 80...
Very forward thinking.
513.
Yeah. Wow, beautiful, beautiful.
2013.
That answered my question.
There you go, Eric.
I think that was brought to our attention by the sports leagues at the time.
There you go. Defense rests.
Okay. Okay, now my next topic is, I was here about a month ago, the last meeting, and Pine Plaza still doesn't have stop signs. They did fix today, they fixed the 2 potholes as you enter, but there are still storm drains that are turned up, and there are stop signs and missing one-way signs that are still a problem there.
So we did, I'll pass it to you, Jerry, first, but we did, the police also did go through and did a survey, and with you, Jerry, I believe, and
Yes.
created a map to highlight and document in more detail what you brought to us last month. So that's done, and we haven't followed up as far
Yeah, on the storm sewer side, I actually met today, this afternoon, with their property maintenance personnel, Gary Taylor, and pointed out the storm that's clogged, and he said he would take care of that probably within a few days.
Okay, and the storm drains that are uprooted?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Very good. Go ahead, John. You got it.
I just have one more thing before I leave. I just want to thank Mr. Giorgio and Robin for setting up a meeting for me about 8 months ago at the Brickyards with the town committee and Jerry to walk the path in the Brickyards.
and let me show them where the path was and everything. And I just wanted to thank them for their time and setting up that meeting for me. Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Floor remains open at this time. Michael, how are you?
Thank you. Michael Hallibay, 158 Ridgedale Avenue, Cedar Knolls. Good evening, gentlemen. First thing I want to say is, yesterday we had a condition at Salem Field. There was a serious condition with the tree, and this happened after the the active line for closing of the fields, so there wasn't any notice. I just want to tell you about the people that care about our kids. I got a call from Denise Brennan. Okay, this was probably like 4 o'clock. I got a call from Brian Ferran telling me about it, and then Tom Quirk was dropping off his wife at the Newark airport, and it was like 4:30. He called me about that. So I want to tell you something. You have the best employees, and they care about their jobs and protecting our kids more than anyone can possibly imagine. Congratulations. Just want to say thank you. So we moved the practices over to Calais, so if there were any issues, thank you very much.
And Mike, when Brian Ferran was there yesterday,
yes.
I was there with him with 2 members of the Hanover Township Police Department. So great team. Great team.
It was a great team. And the job that DPW does and the job that the recreation do is remarkable for our township. Thank you for that.
Mike. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Yeah. And been hearing some rumblings. I don't follow Facebook or anything about possible fields and possible playgrounds and things. I'm the president of the Little League. We have over 360 children in our program. Everybody says that we see all these fields. We don't have enough fields, especially this time of year. Soccer, baseball, softball, lacrosse. Everybody's fighting for time and for field time. If it rains, you have to make up those games, and you never have an opportunity to do that. Last year, with the wet conditions, everybody remembers last year we had what Minnesota's going through now.
Yeah.
We had 9 inches of snow last April 4th. That held us back 3 weeks. Okay, by the time the fields and everything were ready to go. Then we had a very wet spring. We couldn't get all of our games in. We had to cut our games from 7 innings to 4 innings just to be able to get through our schedule. Right? We need more facilities. I know there are many people that don't have children in our programs. They've gone through and they say, we have plenty. Well, I want to tell you something, we don't. And it's unfortunate that sometimes people turn around and they hear something and all of a sudden someone becomes a target. I'll tell you that everybody on this committee is totally dedicated to this township. We know that you are forward-looking and you want to accommodate everyone. Thank you for looking at it and exploring these opportunities, and I want to commend you for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Okay?
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you very much.
Much appreciated hearing that, truly. Not to belabor it, but I know we've been focusing on our recreational facilities tonight. And I know recreational facilities is looking at a lot of different alternatives, even in the short term. Additional lighting on fields, etc. I know that Little League, you just got what'd you get? Generator lights, portable lights on the fields now. Michael, what do they got down there?
We are attempting to. We've been waiting for our temporary lights to be delivered to Blackbrook to the small field.
Great idea.
Okay, and thank you to Ron and to John. You were on the committee at the time when we approved the lights on the big field there at Blackbrook. Yeah. That took 15 years to do. Okay, we need lights on more of our fields, and we know that it could be an inconvenience to some people. That those lights, everybody's worried about a gathering place, those lights go off. It isn't, there aren't gangs, there aren't people hanging around that situation. It is only the teams, the families, and then they go home. Right? We're hoping that these lights come to Blackbrook. We want to be good neighbors. We want to go to all the neighbors and let them know before anything is going to happen. We're just exploring it. We don't want anyone to be surprised or angry with it. We're trying to do things the right way. It's for people and families in our community, for them to take advantage of. We need to have these kids active, right, and not getting in trouble. And this winter, I saw Comedian Gallagher for Friday nights over at Menon there for the drug program. I mean, there were 300 kids at that thing. They promoted. What a great job. Okay, it was tremendous. And to see that response, and to be able now to watch these kids practicing and out here with their families, it is the greatest thing in the world. Okay, and again, thank you, and please keep exploring those opportunities, and let's consider some lights on some of our other fields, okay? Thank you very much.
Absolutely, Mike. It's definitely on the radar. And thank you, Mike, for all that you do for Little League. Mike is an unsung hero. He really is bringing the Little League together, doing a terrific job. It's really given him some direction. And
we hear he really stepped up to it.
Yeah.
Mike, I just want to say, too, the last couple of months we've been talking quite a bit about our fields and all the men working together. And I don't think people realize how much time you and the board put in. You do a phenomenal job. You're everywhere all the time, and thank you very much on behalf of all our families. You do a great job, Mike. Thank you.
Floor remains open. Hearing none.
Look forward to seeing all of you on April 27th at opening day.
Oh,
we will be there.
There'll be plenty of hot dogs.
Oh. That's you know, you got some great sponsors coming out for that day too. You got Wegmans coming out, you got Bayer's coming out. It's going to be a wonderful day.
Rotary, nice and Columbus.
Oh, super.
Yeah.
It's community.
Yeah.
That's what we want, Mike. That's what we want. Motion to close?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Administrator.
Okay, as we continue now with the formal agenda, we have the approval of the Township Committee minutes, the regular meeting of March 14th, 2019. May we have a motion for approval?
So
Have a
moved.
motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
So approved. We have departmental reports. The following are on file in my office and available for public inspection. We have reports from the Township Engineer on all capital projects, status reports. The report of the Chief of Police on all activities conducted in the Township. We have the Treasurer's report on the summary of budget revenues for the Township. The Superintendent of Public Works, Buildings and Grounds and Park Maintenance has submitted his reports for the past 2 months. And we also have the Office of the Construction Official having submitted his reports on all building permits, zoning permits, and certificates of occupancy that have been issued. Those reports are available for public inspection. As we continue now, ladies and gentlemen, we have the public hearing and consideration of adoption of the 2019 current fund budget. We'll note for the record that our financial statement has been filed with the Division of Local Government Services. We have the proof of publication that the synopsis of the ordinance appeared in full in the March 21st issue of the Daily Record in accordance with law. So at this time, may we have a motion to convene the public hearing?
So moved.
A motion, second. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone in chambers wishing to comment on the proposed 2019 current fund budget?
Motion to close?
Second.
Motion, second. On roll call to close on public hearing, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramaska.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now, on adoption, be it resolved by the Township Committee of the Township of Hanover that the 2019 local municipal budget is adopted at this time. May we have a motion for the adoption of the budget?
So moved.
Second. A motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call for adoption, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
And just for the record, we have our auditor here this evening from Nisavacia. So welcome.
Should I say a word?
You sure can.
I told your CFO when I said, can I invite myself, can I say a word? I've only been in tenure as your auditor for 3 months, and I thank you very much for that opportunity. And in that period of time, the annual financial statement needed to be filed, and of course, Silvio prepares that and shares it with me, and as your auditor, I have to sign off that you're in accordance with all the laws and regulations of New Jersey. Same with the budget. And I just wanted to say, because it's important to recognize the effort that goes into the budget, but as an outside independent looking at your finances, it's very obvious to me that you take the time and the effort, and you're not planning for 1 year, you're forecasting for the future. And so I think that the budget you have put together for 19 takes into consideration not only today, but tomorrow. And I just wanted to be able to say that in front of the mayor and committee and everyone who participated in the budget.
Thank you, Kathy.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. We look forward to working with you and your team.
I'd like to underscore the comment. On behalf of the Township Committee, I want to recognize the efforts of Mr. Esposito, our CFO. He worked very, very diligently, smartly, guiding us through that budget process, working carefully with the budget the department heads to achieve this. Constantly doing budgets at this level and consistently coming under the cap is no small feat, and we thank him for his efforts.
Thank you, Silvio.
Well, Hanover, just for the record, you hear so much about, you did earlier about our concerns over bonding and debt, et cetera, but we still are locked into cigar box budgeting, and I'm always pleased to explain that for a second, and that means that if we don't have it in the cigar box, it don't get spent. So it's quite that simple, and that's what all of our departments are looking at when they need equipment, when they have capital needs, etc. We put away dollars every year until we can 100% pay for something. That's Hanover's way of dealing with finances. Thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. At this juncture, that was
the budget.
to you. Yeah.
Right. Now we get back. We have 3 ordinances for consideration of public hearing and adoption this evening, and we can take it as a consent agenda. We have ordinance number 12-2019, 13-2019, and 14-2019 as set forth on your written agenda. We have the proofs of publication that all 3 ordinances and their notices of introduction appeared in full in the March 20th issue of the Daily Record. We'll also note for the record that on ordinance number 12-2019, that ordinance was filed with the Morris County Planning Board and received by the Planning Board. It was also sent in accordance with the municipal land use law to the Hanover Township Planning Board for review and recommendation. And we have in the file a letter signed by Chairman Pinadella that the Planning Board concurs with the approval and adoption of ordinance number 12-2019. So at this time, may we have a motion to open the public hearing for anyone who wishes to speak on ordinances 12, 13, or 14.
So moved.
Have a motion, second. On roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca. Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Is there anyone present in chambers wishing to be heard on ordinance 12, 13, or 14?
Seeing none, motion to close.
Seeing none, we have a motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Faramasca. On roll call to close the public hearings on the 3 ordinances, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca. Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Now on adoption, this is on adoption of ordinance number 12-2019, 13-2019, and 14-2019 May we have a motion and a second for adoption?
Second?
We have a motion by Mr. Faramasca, seconded by Mr. Gallagher. On roll call for adoption of all three ordinances, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So adopted. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to pages 2 and 3. We have the introduction of ordinances 15, 16, 17, 18, and 19. Are there any questions from members of the Township Committee on any of those ordinances? All of these ordinances will be published in full with the notices of introduction in the Daily Record on the 17th of April, and the public hearing for all of those ordinances will be held on May the 9th at 9 p.m. here in the main meeting room, and at that time, any person wishing to be heard on ordinances 15, 16, 17, 18, or 19 will be given the opportunity to be heard. So at this time, may we have a motion to introduce those 5 ordinances?
So motion.
Have
Second.
a motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Cahill. On roll call for introduction, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Thank you, gentlemen. And we move on now to item 11, the resolutions as a consent agenda. Are there any questions from members of the governing body on any of the resolutions that are on the agenda?
Motion to accept.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Francioli, seconded by Mr. Faramasca, to approve the resolutions as a consent agenda. On those motions, on roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved. On raffle, well, payment of bills first, $5,215,134.63.
So moved.
To approve.
We have a motion to approve. We have a second on roll call, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Yes.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
So approved on payment of bills. On raffle applications, 3199 through 3208. As a consent agenda, may we have a motion on the approval of the raffle applications?
So moved.
A motion by Mr. Cahill, seconded by Mr. Francioli. On roll call for approval of the raffle applications, Mr. Gallagher.
Aye.
Mr. Faramasca.
Aye.
Mr. Mahalko.
Yes.
Mr. Cahill.
Aye.
And Mr. Francioli.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, members of the Township Committee, that clears the agenda of the Business Administrator, Township Clerk, and I thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Joe. Very good. Very good. Gentlemen, once again, I'd like to open the floor. Motion to open.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, the floor once again is open. Anyone who would like to address the Township Committee can do so from the podium.
This is on any of the ones already read?
Yeah, by all means.
Okay. Ordinance 19, can you explain what that is? Ordinance 19-2019?
Which one?
It's a planning issue.
Oh, go ahead.
Blaze, I think you'd be the best.
Page 3?
Yeah.
That ordinance would amend the B10 zone, which is on Route 10, to allow a small-scale storage-type use, provided it includes a retail or office component. So we permit office and retail already in the zone. In some cases, we do allow other uses. We allow for certain limited industry, like bakeries and breweries and things like that, if they have a retail component. This is doing the same thing with the storage.
So almost like a self-storage as long
Not
as it's...
self-storage, this would be not industrial type storage. It's just really storage related to more office type use and retail type use. It's not meant to be like a trucking operation or anything like that, or even a self-storage. We do allow self-storage on Route 10 in the IB2 zone with the existing storage facility there, but not in the B10 zone.
Then how's this different?
Pardon?
How is this different than that?
It's smaller scale. It's limited to 10,000 square feet, which is a lot smaller than a self-storage facility would be.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, floor remains open. Hearing none, motion to close.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Gallagher, how you doing?
Pretty good, Ron, thanks.
Good.
I'm going to jump on the bandwagon of tonight's theme, which was basically all about rec all the time. And I want to start by saying, Mike, you did an incredible job for the last month and a half at least, getting all this information together. And some of the questions Mike had to answer is, do we need another field? If so, where would we put it? How would we pay for it? What type of field would it be? These are all very, very serious questions that Mike has spearheaded with the rec commissioners. And Mike, I just want to say the way you handled it, your patience, your due diligence, your research, your phone calls, I don't think it could have been done better. And your explanation tonight, and I also want to compliment the fact that, and I said to you, welcome to the Township Committee, when you got a couple nice slams in social media, and for whatever it's worth, I think you handled it very well.
Thank you.
And it's great working with you, and you're doing an incredible job. So thank you, Mike.
Thank you, thank you. And I like working with the public. I like to get their input. I get a little, like anyone would, when they misconstrue. But again, overall, 99%, it's great to do it, and I enjoy doing it. I enjoy working with the rec department.
And you know, I always say passion is a beautiful thing. And if somebody's focused and passionate, and then you throw in there that they're a good listener, that's leadership, and that's a team player, and that's somebody that absolutely deserves to be in your position. So thank you, Mike. Great work.
Thank you.
Getting back to rec, I have something very interesting to say about our DPW guys in our fields. And I think every one of us has been complimented on this, and Mike Halliday almost complimented us today. I can't tell you how many people tell me what a great job I do on the fields. I'll level with you. I don't really do very much on the fields. The men from the DPW do the work on the fields. So it's easy for me to say I work with the DPW and I'm proud, and I am. But, you know, Brian Ferrand's the boss, and here's what they did since the middle of March. And I want to compliment the partnership with baseball and the way we all get together and walk the fields and look at what we can do to make them better. But here's what they've done since the middle of March. They picked up all the sticks and debris from all around our fields and all around the surrounding areas and parking lots from our fields. The men blew the leaves, not only on the township fields, but on all the school fields. The men put up batting cages throughout the township. They added clay to every single field in Hanover Township. The men turned and tilled every infield in the township, painted 10 soccer fields and 1 lacrosse field. And when you paint these, you don't paint them once and you're done. You have to repeatedly keep up on these fields. So I'll be reporting throughout the seasons on what these guys are doing. They painted 12 baseball fields. They marked out and painted the new pickleball court. The men set up the craft show, the pancake breakfast, and hopping down the bunny trail, which I think most of us popped in and saw the Easter bunny up close and personal. They opened up and cleaned the new snack shack at the football field. They opened the pool and have completed all the concrete repairs. Our DPW has turned in to pool experts. The men also opened up and inspected all our playgrounds, which also brought us to the discussion tonight that one portion of our playground at Bee Meadow was technically condemned this year because it saw better days. So I just want to say that this is teamwork. We have an incredible group of people in place, incredible professionals. So when people say that I do a really good job with the fields, I want to say I don't really do anything. I ride by and take a picture periodically and put it on Facebook and thank the guys. So thank you, Brian. Thank you, Little League. Thank you, all our organized sports. And thank you, Mike and the rec. You guys are phenomenal. Just 2 more quick ones. With our drug coalition, beginning with football, we always say you do it for one, you got to do for another. On Sunday, May 5th and Sunday, May 12th, our Tigers Nation is going to be training with Hanover Township PD. Because they're going to be training our football players, of course the cheerleaders said, what about us? So some of our top cheerleading coaches are going to be working side by side with our police department and training the cheerleaders at the same time. Mr. Wasco provided the gymnasium for both events, and Mr. Wasco is part of our drug coalition. So again, it's a great partnership. Now, the last one I have for tonight is June 8th is going to be Hanover's Big Night Out. I think it's year 5, right, John? Year 5?
5 years now.
What we did this year was decided to do it at Memorial Junior School instead of the high school because our target audience for this is the younger kids, and that's typically who shows up. Now, the high school students, the Wildcat football team, were security and ushers at our teen concert series. So if our Tigers Nation players do well, the older players are going to have an opportunity to be deputized by us and the Hanover Township PD to be chaperones and security at Hanover's big night out. So nothing makes a kid feel better than having responsibility like that and feeling like they earn their responsibility. So if they're sweating and jumping around and listening and they're doing their thing, guess what? They're going to be walking around like they own the place in Memorial Junior School on June 8th. And if any of you guys want to come down and stop down, I believe it's B Meadow. We were between Memorial Junior and B Meadow. But Mr. Wasco said they have more features such as ropes and rock climbing apparatus at B Meadow. So I'll give you guys the times if you want to stop in. Maybe I'm a little old to climb the rock wall, maybe a little fat right now, but it'll be fun to be there and support them. But that's everything I got, guys. Thank you.
You'd be beating on my chest if I tried a rock wall. Are you kidding? Oh my God, son of a gun. All right, thank you, Mr. Gallagher. Very, very good. Mr. Cahill.
Thank you. So we'll change the subject a little bit. We are in the middle of You Drive, You Text, You Pay enforcement campaign. This is something that a number of police departments do once a year in the spring, beginning April 1st. So as I said, we're in the midst of it right now. It'll be ending April 21st. Basically, this is a high visibility law enforcement initiative that targets motorists who are engaged in dangerous, distracted driving behaviors, such as mostly, handheld cell phones and texting and crazy things like that. Just a point of fact, New Jersey is one of only 4 states nationally that gets funding for this. So I'm not quite sure why, but it says something about our aggressiveness in trying to keep people from doing that. I shared these stats. These are slightly updated from the last year, but nationally, 3,450 people were killed by distracted driving crashes, and close to 400,000 were injured. So it's a serious thing. And Ace, to your point earlier, this is a tough state to drive in anyway because it's very crowded. So particularly at all times, seriously, but certainly for the next couple of weeks, watch out. There's been a lot of talk about phone scams going on. It seems that type of activity is getting worse and worse and worse. And I just wanted to share the latest one that was just put out through local police departments, I think just yesterday. This one is called the One Ring phone scam, and basically what it is that you'll get a one ring from a phone number, and your ID will indicate it's a phone number from potentially a foreign country or some exotic place that you're not necessarily familiar with. It will automatically ring one time over and over again in the hopes that the potential victim will get tired of it enough to actually call the number back. And once they do that, the idea is to get you talking, transfer you through several exchanges until you're actually connected to some rather expensive premium type international numbers that give you hefty charges. So just don't answer the phone if you don't recognize the number, is the bottom line. Moving over to the fire department, March 24th, I think I saw everybody there. Whippany Fire Company had a very successful pancake breakfast. A lot of people showed up. The food was great. So looking forward to doing that again next year. And then as a reminder, actually this will be the last reminder because we've got a deadline coming up. The Youth Public Safety Academy. We did this a couple of years ago, and the Hanover Township won an award for the program. Yes. It's basically instructed and delivered by Hanover Township Police Department, Cedar Knolls and Whippany Fire Department, as well as the Morris County Sheriff's Office. The dates for the program are July 8th through Friday, July 19th. And as I said, there's a deadline for sign-up. You need to go in person to the rec center. The deadline is May 24th, and the cost for that program is $125. But it's worthwhile. It's a good program, and I would encourage anybody to look into it. Going back to Whippany Fire Department, so they have their 5K race coming up very soon. That is going to be on Sunday, May 5th, so it's coming up very soon. Registration begins at 7 a.m. to 8:15 a.m., and the race starts at 8:30 a.m. with an award ceremony at 9:45. This is taking place at B Meadow Park, just like we did last year. So again, encourage everybody to participate if you're a runner. If you don't want to register live while there in the morning, you can also go to whippanyfire.com, and there's a link there that'll bring you to the sign-up page. Speaking of 5Ks, the Hanover Township Education Foundation is also sponsoring their annual 5K. This one will be on Saturday, June 8th, rain or shine. And it's the same sort of system. So check-in will be at 7 a.m. For pre-registrants, but you'll also be able to sign up live. The race starts at 8:30 a.m. In addition to the run, there is also a 1-mile fun walk. And then this also culminates in an award ceremony at the end of the race, approximately 9:15 or 9:30, where trophies for various age groups and different levels of runners and walkers will be put out. So for that one, if you're interested and you want to pre-register, go to www.hanovereducationfoundation.org. And again, right up there on the front page, there's a link that'll bring you to the registration and sign-up page. And that's all I have.
Hey, Ron. Can I jump in for 1 second about the phone scam?
You sure can.
You know, just jumping on what Committeeman Cahill said about the phone scam. This morning at work, I got a phone call, and I always check to make sure it's not either one of my children's schools or my wife. And it was my cell phone number. And I answered it. I was shocked for a minute. And I answered it, and it said, please hit 1 because this line has been compromised. And they gave me a little instruction. So I wasn't going to hit 1. I hung up. So for a couple minutes, I'm thinking, how is that possible? A couple minutes later, they called me again with the same thing. I hung up. I called Verizon Wireless. And they told me that what they're doing now is they can take your phone number and call you. And if you're perplexed, because your first reaction is you're perplexed, you hit 1, and they walk you through prompts to, quote, help you navigate through unlocking your phone. And what they do is they access all your information, and they can actually get into your billing information if you go far enough. So here's the part that I talked to Committeeman Mahalko about today that's dangerous. A couple days ago, my mother got a call from me at 4 o'clock in the morning. We were sleeping and my phone was off. And I couldn't understand how it happened. But they're hijacking our phone numbers, calling us from them and calling other people from them, and it's all a scam. So it's almost, how far can they go? But me getting a call from my phone number, and when I posted it, I can't tell you how many people got back and said, I got a call from myself today too. So again, like I said to Eric before, we can't even keep up with this stuff. These criminals are sharp. So,
you know, if they put this kind of technology to good work, we'd be on Mars by
oh, yeah,
now.
we would.
It's amazing. It's just amazing. I tell you, every time you think you've seen every scam going, somebody comes up with some other little bend in the road here. It's amazing. But you mean to tell me once if you hit the number and you follow the plan, you're actually then verbally giving up like passwords, etc., of your own?
Well, you have to, quote, go into your account to try to
so people know how this works, you know.
To go into your account to have them help you unlock your account because it's threatened by a security risk. So you're basically giving everybody your information, this company or these people your information, so they can, quote, help you, and meanwhile they have all your information.
Similar to a banking scam that was going on. You'd get a call, John, I think you got one, where you get a call, you get an email that says your bank account's been frozen and compromised, and you have to call, quote, Chase or whatever for this. You call that number, and the first thing they're going to ask you is to reestablish your password, etc., by giving them your old one. So, folks,
thanks for the extra time.
If you don't have caller ID on your phone, if you don't have Optimal where it shows up on your television set, you go to channel 900. Dial down to where you can activate the caller ID on your set and do it. And if you don't recognize the number, don't get near it. You know, that's it. Thank you. Yeah. Michael.
All right. Attended the senior citizen meeting, as I normally do. Morris County surrogate, John Picaro, was there.
Oh.
He did a fantastic job explaining what the surrogate does. And a lot of, he really got into some age planning, and it was very interesting. So again, senior citizens, there's a lot of programs that go on. Get involved. If you're not involved with the senior citizens, get out there. They meet at the beginning of the month, and on Wednesdays, check them out. Veterans, just one reminder, Memorial Day. We have the Memorial Day Parade coming up, so put it on your calendars. Make sure you're ready to go. I'm trying to skim through this because we've been dragging on. You guys heard enough from me tonight, so. One thing I do want to point out, we had on Tuesday night, we were able to honor an 8th grade boy and an 8th grade girl for the Pat Sages Basketball Leadership Awards. The boy was Akash Karlikar. He's, again, in 8th grade. Katie Steinberg. Both exemplify leadership on and off the court. And these young people were picked by the coaches and other coaches. They took a vote, they took a poll about which students represent those qualities, and these are the two. Two terrific kids. And also we renamed that in recognition of Pat Sages, who passed away last year, and his family was attendance at the ceremony. It was nice, and committeemen were there. It was a nice meeting and a nice ceremony. Like we said before, Hopping Down a Bunny Trail was last weekend. Over 300 kids, parents. Thanks again to Wegmans, the Whippany Park Interact Club, senior citizens were there helping out. It was a terrific day. It was a beautiful day. A lot of people went from there, took their children over to the playground over at Vets Field, and they really enjoyed the new playground. One thing I'd like to point out, we collected 178 pounds of food for the Interfaith Food Pantry. Again, another nice job there. I know you guys are tired of hearing about this one, but the King Kong on Broadway has been rescheduled for the 3rd time. I bring this up because, unfortunately, a couple people can't make the May 11th rescheduling, so there are a couple tickets available. So if you're interested, reach out to the rec department. We do have a couple more tickets. Those are $115. It includes the bus. It includes, obviously, it's an orchestra seat at King Kong, and obviously transportation in and out of New York. All right, mark your calendars, boys. We got the fishing contest at Malapartis Pond on Saturday, May 18th. Registration begins at 8 o'clock. Contest starts at 9. That goes until noon. After that, from 1 to 3, we have the Touch a Truck here at the Community Center. Okay, so mark those down. Also, pool registration. The early bird is still open until the 18th of this month. After that, the rate goes up a little bit. So make sure you get your pool registrations in. We've got a big push this year. We've got a lot of fun things going on. Really targeting some senior activities also. So it's it's a lot of come out and see your friends, come out and see your neighbors. It's a great time at the pool, and we're gonna have a nice new playground over there soon, hopefully. FYI, AEDs are checked and installed at all of the fields. And, again, excuse me, Hanover Township Little League opening day, April 27th. Parade begins at 10 a.m., ceremonies at 11, hot dogs, of course. Hopefully we'll see you all there. All right. That's it. Wow. That's enough from me.
Wow. No
scratching throat.
No grass goes under your feet in Hanover Township.
No,
Got a lot going on. Got an absolutely lot going on. Deputy Mayor, how are we doing with roads?
Road season is here. It's well upon us. The first 2 roads are up. Number 1, Troy Road. Number 2, Woodland. They'll be done the week of 4/15, weather permitting. Special announcement regarding roads. Hanover Township earned a DOT award for road paving, and the road that will be paved is called Airport Road, and that will be paved by funds through the state of New Jersey. That will be no cost of the local municipality, so that's a good thing. We like to earn as many of these grants as possible. We thank engineering for that. Secondly, I'd like to bring to everyone's attention information about environmental issues. The whole concept of recycling is changing as we know it. And a lot of that has to do with economics, and a lot of that has to do with shipping offshore, your recycling in what they call single stream. Well, a lot of it is being rejected, and as a result of it, we need to, in Morris County, make some changes as to what we're depositing in those single-use receptacles. So contact the website, but I'm just going to highlight a few things. Do not throw single-use plastic bags in your recycle container. Do not throw styrofoam into your recycle container. Do not put metal hangers. Do not put plastic bottles unless coded specifically for recycling. This is a process that they're going to go through in April through June, warning us. But in July, if they find this in your curbside recycling, they might leave you a notice explaining to you that they're unable to pick it up. And we'd hate for you to have your recycling rejected. So please consult the website on the specifics. That's what it's all about. It'll give you accurate information.
Will we send home more information on that?
It's on our website as well. It's on
on
Hanover
the-
Township's website. It's on Morris County's website as well. It's very important. Lastly, just an opportunity to bring to people's attention in terms of if you're in the market for any kind of mulch, there's a great program that Morris County MUA has right now. So consult their website. It's a real bargain in terms of the acquisition, purchase of mulch through them. You can go up there and pick it up yourself, or you can get it delivered, and there's a fee associated with it. That concludes
No,
my
that's good.
remarks.
And by the way, it's vegetable mulch. If ever, most gardeners are concerned about what they get from the county in mulch. This is, we're looking at it even for our gardeners here at the Stony Brook Farm for its purity, etc. But this is vegetable mulch, so it's very good. So as the deputy mayor just said, it's available to you by a phone call to the MUA. They'll deliver it. I took 10 yards last year of wood chips from them, and I think it came into about $140 for 10. You can't beat it. You absolutely can't beat it. So it's phenomenal. Absolutely great, But in any event, we have we just celebrated the retirement from the Interfaith Food Pantry this past Friday evening over at the Birchwood Manor. And Rosemary Gilmartin, who was the chairman and began the Interfaith Food Pantry some years ago, that brought it up to what it is now, feeding over 5,000 Morris County families a year, maybe more even now, but beside that, was retired. And she had a wonderful affair. Hanover was present to attend that affair. That was at the Birchwood, this past Friday. And we wish Rosemary all the best. If there was an angel on the earth, it's certainly Rosemary. Just to remind everybody, and I just noticed it, and Mr. Gallagher passed over it, but we're going to start collecting grass after Monday. Right? So this Monday begins the grass schedule again. So we're going to start hearing those lawnmowers, and Public Works Department will have grass collection at your curbside, from there. Very good. Just looking over my notes here. The library had a wonderful affair. The craft show was held on this past Saturday. It was one of the largest attended and the best return of fundraising on that affair for this Saturday. A lot of our committee members were able to stop over there. Brian, I know you stopped over there, etc. John, they thank you for your contribution as well on there. So it was a very, very good afternoon for that. So that's it for me. I want to wish all of our Christian friends from all of us here on the Township Committee a wonderful, wonderful, happy Easter coming up, and till we talk to you again. So thank you for that. No further from the committee at this time, then a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Very good. I'm done, right? I don't think we have any other business.
I have a plaque sitting in my office for Rosemary. You didn't tell me. You told me he was going to come in April.
I told you to show you what the plaque will take.
Questions for anybody?
It went very well.